Hello, everyone. I'm Annette Davis, President of the National Association for Holistic Aromatherapy. It's my pleasure today to be interviewing Dr. Cecile Ellert, a Franco-American holistic aromatherapist who is an integrative health researcher, educator, and author specializing in essential oils and antimicrobial prevention. She serves as NAHA's International Director for France. She has recently completed her studies in sustainability at Massachusetts Institute of Technology, MIT, and is dedicated to exploring sustainable applications of essential oils to create a more eco-conscious healthcare system. Welcome, Cecile.
Hey, and thanks a lot for having me.
You bet. So today we will be discussing how aromatherapists can become part of the solution to antimicrobial resistance. So,
Excellent.
our first question that I would like to ask you, Cecile, we hear more and more about antimicrobial resistance. Why should aromatherapists care?
I think that one of the biggest misconceptions is that antimicrobial resistance is a hospital problem. It certainly has been for a long time, but it is not anymore. Now it is an environmental problem. And that eventually becomes a healthcare problem. When I was at MIT, when I wanted to talk about it, I presented it as the illustration of how healthcare is absolutely not sustainable today. Because, yeah, the way healthcare handles the situation is absolutely not sustainable. When you think of the years to come, it shouldn't continue the way it is, because it is important to understand that bacteria are not becoming resistant because patients take antibiotics anymore. They are becoming resistant because antibiotics are now part of our environment. Um, we don't always know that traces of antibiotics released into water, into soil, and even in the air create a constant selection pressure. It means that bacteria adapt, and those resistant bacteria eventually reach people. Um, that means that antimicrobial resistance is no longer someone else's problem. It affects absolutely every family, everybody, you, me, everyone around us, even if we never use antibiotics. Because we are all touched by it, whatever we do, drinking it, eating it, breathing it. And every family will face infection, eventually, respiratory infection or whatever. And but the risk of infection you get is going to be more a problem today. Let's face it, I don't know, tomorrow, you cross the road and a bus bump into you and you are kind of half broken and you need to replace your hip. You're gonna need antibiotics, or something has, your spleen blew out like that in your belly, you're gonna need antibiotics. But now you are not even sure that these antibiotics are going to do their job. Okay. Um, so the question is no longer what antibiotic will work, or it will work, or if it will work. The question is how can we reduce the number of situations where antibiotics become necessary, really necessary? And the situation where we absolutely need them, not for in case we would need them, but when we need them to be efficient when we need them. And there is a huge difference. So if you wonder why aromatherapists should care, my answer, of course, is yes. This is exactly where aromatherapists have a huge opportunity to contribute. Not to replace antibiotics absolutely, because antibiotics are still necessary, but to use our powerful yet gentle natural tools before an infection has a chance to become more serious. Um, And of course, the way I see things, aromatherapist job should be broader than simply offer antiseptic blends. Uh, I think they have to educate enough the public on the subject because our role is shifting from solely treating illness to helping people intervene earlier, to have the confidence to do it. So to support their immune system, to protect their microbiome, and to reduce unnecessary antimicrobial exposure. So yes, for decades, we focused on developing stronger antibiotics and rely on only on this power. Today, I think that this paradigm has to shift. The power has to shift because we also need smarter prevention. This is what is very important. And why should aromatherapist care about that? Yeah.
Oh, wonderful. Yeah. So what you're saying, what I gathered from that in a nutshell, is it's not the antibiotics that we're taking for an acute infection, for example. That's the problem, but the antibiotics that are all over in our environment.
Exactly. Exactly. We have
Yes.
some absolutely everywhere.
Yes. Yes. Well, thank you. My next question then is, where do essential oils fit into this picture?
Alors, the thing is, we have really relied on antibiotics for always, for decades. And now we have to start reducing it, reduce this overuse, okay? And this is exactly where, and aromatherapy and essential oils should be able to be taken soon enough to reduce the need of antibiotics. This
Mhm.
is the main thing. So, yes, essential oils are very, very powerful, gentle. And the difference is you're not going to leave people with antibiotics in their home for in case they have an issue. Okay. You don't want them to keep a stash of antibiotics in their cabinet, but they can have essential oils, and especially they can have, like me with my organization, we give them. I don't really give them very often blends, already made blends, but uh, I like to put together something that is very broad, but very gentle, that they can use on anyone at any moment for any situation when they have a doubt. And this way they can act, they can feel powerful, they can do something with no consequences at all. If they didn't need an antibacterial, but it's okay. It's okay. It doesn't matter. But at least they could act. Yeah.
Oh, that's great. Can you give us an example of a blend, what oils it might contain that you have used?
Okay. What I like to use is an association of something antibacterial, but soft. Like, for instance, I followed the classes of Valerie Edwards-Jones a long time ago, and they showed us how Lavandula latifolia and tea tree were so powerful already on Staphylococcus aureus, just not even on contact, but by vaporization. So I really do love these two together, but this is for the very antibacterial uh, side of it, and I like to blend it with something that is strongly anti-stress, and to add something that is very more about cell regeneration and skin regeneration, stuff like that, cicatrization. So I like to blend tea tree, Lavandula latifolia, Lavandula angustifolia, and Chamomilla matricaria. Yeah.
Okay. Good, thank you. So, what then are the common mistakes people make when using essential oils against an infection?
But the mistake to me, the most important mistake is there are three actually. The first mistake would be to wait too long because as a practitioner, what I see is they've tried everything first and then they come to me. or they go to the pharmacy. The pharmacy suggests something that is, of course, as not as powerful as using an oil. And since they realize it didn't work, they think of using the oils, but they don't feel confident enough. So they finally contact someone like me. And so it delays. Okay. So the first mistake is really waiting too long. So they wait until the infection sometimes is already well established. And at that point, every option becomes more difficult. So my motto is really the early we intervene, the gentler the solution will be. And the second mistake is assuming that a severe infection automatically requires the most aggressive essential oil. So phenols, I not the only answer. Personally, I never use them. I rarely, really. Sometimes I use clove in a little bit in something very large when there is no other choice. But phenols, I don't really rely on it. That's exactly why, for instance, with ARN, my little organization, we've been developing multifunctional aromatic strategies like the one I've been talking earlier, with these four oils. Rather than simply searching for the strongest antibiotics, antimicrobial essential oil, I love identifying rare oils that fill the job all by themselves. For instance, I love Camptonia peregrina because it's not an easy to find oil, but it's a good example because this little oil fills all the dots. It combines broad antimicrobial activity with nervous system support, with immune modulation and tissue repair. And to me, an infection is never just a microbe. It's a very hospitable host behind. So the ideal spot to attract a pathogen is usually the person who is already weak, with a bad microbiome, so a bad immunity, a lot of toxins inside. So the main thing already is to explain to the public that if they use to take care of themselves with the oils all the time, they will benefit from a permanent type of detoxification because the oils detoxify a lot. And they're going to sustain their immunity all the time. They're going to lower their level of stress and they're going to protect their microbiome. So to me, it is really the main focus point. Yeah.
Wonderful. I absolutely agree. That's a perfect point. So that leads us right into our next question. Do you feel like the general public and staff of, say, a clinic are sufficiently educated on the right way to use essential oils?
This is yeah, this is a tough one because unfortunately, no, I don't think so. But it's not really their fault. Uh,
No. Oh.
because regarding, for instance, doctors, they don't have the time to put their nose into that subject, and when they don't know, they say, "Don't do it." And people, general public, they receive two opposite messages. They hear that essential oils are miracle cures. And in the same time that they are dangerous, especially in France. In France, it's the only place I think where you can see a dangerous product on the bottle. Uh, it makes you think twice. So it's to me, very confusing because I'm thinking, right now in France, for instance, they had a very dangerous canicule. And my niece had a baby 2 weeks ago. And already having a baby when it's very hot, the air is very saturated and polluted. You have a newborn breathing that. Right now, there are, I don't know how many newborns and babies with respiratory issues. And they're gonna have what? Steroids. When they could have, you know, lemon diffused in the house or something very gentle like orange, lemon, not even, especially not eucalyptus, but something that would already brighten the air and make it easier and prevent infection. No, they're gonna all have bronchiolitis and I don't know what. And you know, it would make things much, much easier for the hospitals. Right now, they are saturated. People are dying because of the heat, and the kids cannot breathe anymore. It would be so logical that they would uh, stop this disinformation, telling people don't use essential oils, especially on babies. Of course, they have to be cautious, but there are some rules, and that's it. You know, when I had my son, I didn't know anything about it. I wish I knew, but at least as a French girl in California, I was using homeopathy, which was not very efficient for his group, by the way. But yeah, now I know, you know, using oil on a newborn is so efficient, just diffusing it.
Yeah.
So yeah, but today the difference is my 29-year-old son has his own stash of oils. He's not going anywhere without them. Okay, he's making his own blends. He has the right reflexes, so I'm very proud of him. There is always hope, even
Yes.
when even a big marine guy like that, full of tattoos, can use oil.
Oh, that's wonderful. Yes, there is hope for the next generation, isn't there?
Yeah,
And that's where people like you come in to educate people. So that's wonderful.
it works.
Yes, yes, it does. Okay, so my next question, can you walk us through the infectious wound workshop as a practical example?
Yeah, I gave it in French last week. It was the first time I was doing that. Uh, and I used Staphylococcus aureus as a base, but I focused only on the physical, I mean, on difficult to heal wounds. I think it's a proper base to start because it's a practical illustration of everything about this type of approach. Rather than teaching people how to identify bacteria, we teach them how to recognize there is a wound that is no longer following a normal healing process. And when it's time to act safely also is very important. So it gives them some power. And it was very gore because I had so many horrible pictures. And I'm going to do it again. It's pretty gore. So we teach them how to recognize early warning signs, to monitor the progression, to understand when medical attention is required, and we apply a gentle aromatic strategy during this early window when antibiotics are not yet available or not yet indicated. Um, so last week, what we did is I gave them a lot of written support. So this is what I will do also when we do that for our aromatherapist. So I have a lot of pictures of any type of wounds and rashes. So it's easier to recognize the evolution of the wounds and what it means. And I explain why I don't apply also any base oil directly on the wound. Actually, I found out that when you create an emulsion with aloe vera gel and something very powerfully interesting like coconut oil, for instance, you have something that is very light and you just need to apply it lightly on the problem area. You don't need to rub it. You don't need to make it, hard. It can be, it can create even more rash if you insist on it. So yeah, I show them that kind of details and I give them my favorite oils and why they are interesting in that. And when you think of something like Matrica chamomilla, so German chamomile, how just that in itself would be enough in many, many cases. So yeah, this is what we're going to talk about at this workshop.
Wonderful. Well, I'm excited. I can't wait. Okay, so in one sentence, what would you call the aromatherapist of the future?
Okay, alors, to me, the aromatherapist of the future will no longer stand alongside the healthcare system. So I hope I will I will see that one day. Historically, these two worlds, the medical and the aromatherapy, haven't had many opportunities to work together. I believe that's beginning to change. It has to change because we need a more sustainable healthcare system. And well, some people tell me I'm naive, but of course, certainly. But I think it's even more naive to believe that we can continue facing the 21st century with the 20th century mindset. The future of healthcare won't be built by choosing between conservative medicine, conventional medicine, and complementary medicine. It has to get together and work together.
Yeah, yeah. Very good. So the aromatherapist of the future will not be separate from the healthcare system, right?
Yeah, I think so. It
Yeah.
should.
Yeah. Wonderful. Yes, I agree.
I'm glad.
So why is antimicrobial resistance actually good news for aromatherapy?
Yeah, alors good news, I'm not sure, but it's one of the greatest public health challenge of our time. And it is creating an opportunity for aromatherapy to contribute in ways we hadn't fully appreciated before. See, the medical system has the back on the wall. They are completely stuck, blocked. They cannot move, okay, anymore. And they have to find solutions. And right now, the only solutions they have is to create more antibiotics, which is exactly what shouldn't be done because it feeding the issue. So we have to rethink, and we can help them rethink the whole
Yeah.
thing. Because every infection that can safely be prevented, every unnecessary course of antibiotics can be avoided, and potentially means less antibiotic use, so less environmental pollution, greater protection of life-saving antibiotics. So yes, we need to show that aromatherapy has the opportunity to demonstrate its value at a much larger scale, not simply as complementary therapy. People should go directly to that instead of waiting, and trying everything and telling you, I tried this, and finally I come to you. It's not.
Right. So the good news is we have an answer.
Yeah, we do. We are part of a global strategy for prevention and resilience. It should be noticed. It should be recognized. So it's up to us to make it heard, to make it known. Yeah.
Wonderful. So, Cecile, could you tell us a little more about your upcoming webinar?
Okay. So, this webinar, it's not about learning a few new essential oils. And now it's about understanding why the future of aromatherapy may be far more important than we ever imagined. I'll explain why antimicrobial resistance has become such a global challenge, using the latest figures on antibiotic pollution, environmental selection pressure also, the spread of resistance, how it works, where does it come from. And we also look at the current research, really what it says about essential oils, where the evidence is strong, where it's still incomplete, and why better research standards are so important, especially research standards. So I talk about the treats, and I'll share my vision on of how aromatherapy can become part of this more preventive, collaborative, and sustainable model of healthcare. So, if today's intervention made our audience curious, this webinar will give them the scientific background, the practical framework, and perhaps, I hope, a new way of looking at the future of our profession. Yeah.
Ah, that's wonderful. And it's a free webinar, right?
Ah, of course, all
Yes.
webinars
Yes.
are free. Yeah.
Yes. Well, thank you so much for offering that. And to sign up, you can go right over to the NAHA Facebook page, or is there a direct link that you'd like to give?
Yeah, I'll put it under, I'll add it under the video. I'll put all the info to join the webinar and the workshop.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much, Cecile. It's great to hear about this. I'm so glad you're doing this work. What a great service to our industry and the world. And thank you so much for taking this on.
Well, it's my pleasure, Annette.
Yeah. Okay, so a few resources for you, and we'll put these in the comments as well. For more information about NAHA safety and essential oils that you can use, head on over to naha.org. And to visit Cecile's website, you can go to subtleacademy.com. And we hope you'll visit these resources and use them and spread the word.